Good evening and welcome to the Legion Cantina. In today's episode, we're going to run through the recent changes that were made in, I think, 2.6.1 and what impact they'll have on the game, and if I think there's any changes that were kind of missed that should have been made by AMG that we'll hope to see coming up in the future. So, yeah, my Commander Luke video dated within less than an hour is kind of impressive. But there were also some other updates, and I won't be entirely whinging about that today. So, I'm going to start off with some kind of general rulebook changes, then go through what happened with specific units, a couple of points changes, and then be looking at the new units coming in, their command cards, and stuff like that. As you can probably see from the title of this video, I have endeavoured to capture every single change I could find. There's inevitably going to be some I could miss, so feel free to stick those down in the comments below. Won't have done it intentionally, but obviously there was quite a few changes and won't have got them all. So, first off, we'll talk about sort of general rulebook changes that were made. So these just the way the game functions rather than rules for specific units. So basically, the clarification or the way they've explained all of these is that they're aiming to make the game sort of more clear, more accessible, remove any ambiguity. So we'll kind of review those as we go along and see if they've achieved what they want to. There was a change to the way sort of ranges work. So at, within, and beyond has changed to within, completely within, not within. I think this is more just a sort of the way the English language works change more than anything else. But yeah, just so you're aware of that one if you see it coming up on any future rules ones. But yeah, the first one we'll talk about is area terrain. So I think the way this is now working is that any terrain, no matter how light, will block line of sight, and you can ignore the piece of area terrain. So a miniature is always obscured while it's part of within a piece of terrain. So I'm assuming this is that as long as you're within a piece of area terrain, you will always count as having part of your silhouette blocked. So you'll always get cover from that terrain, as it were. Yeah, this one's a bit weirdly worded, and I assume there'll be some ambiguity on. Some clarification on the in the sort of blogs and things like that they tend to post. So yeah, we'll see some clarification on this soon, I'm sure. Important change was that we've moved from rolling 5 black dice to 4 black dice. No idea why they've done this. It's stupid. Yeah. I mean, it may be harsh to call it stupid, but as a change you can make, I don't understand this. Like, it just means you're going to draw more often. So, yeah, whatever. Yeah, there are a few changes in this where I think you might be able to tell my opinion on them. The next change was the way you build a command hand, which command cards are eligible, and then how you can use them in game. So essentially, if you have a command card that requires multiple units, you need at least one of those units within the player's army. If it's reference or, and then if it's both, i.e., it says and on the card, you have to have both characters in there. So I think for like Han and Chewbacca's card, for instance, it does say and, so you need to have both in there. And if it was to say or, for instance, like IG-11 and IG-88, you could choose to only have one. And then the same goes for when you're using the command cards. You need at least one of them alive to play, which I think is how it worked anyway. Maybe there was some confusion over that one. There were some cards that could be used without them, but yeah, not really sure how that one works. Some clarification on standard moves. So you are allowed to just move other minis out the way. This was something that people did anyway, but it's just been clarified. And then you can move a non-leader mini out the way and then move the rest of them along as we did anyway. So yeah, that's fine now and within the rules. So don't hate this one, and a nice bit of clarification can't hurt. Climb and pivots clarified, not standard moves. I think this means that all other moves are standard moves. There's some stuff we'll look at in vehicles in a second that does sort of clarify those as well. So yeah, just a clarification on what is and isn't a standard move. This was kind of all in, the responses that AMG put on their website anyway. So yeah. Blocking LOS. This is, I think, mainly an Aquas thing, possibly also Droidekas in certain angles. There were ways you could line up Aquas, so you could only ever see 2 of them if you were shooting them from straight on or something. So, yeah, this is a good change, and I think just removes another element of ambiguity. Again, I think this one had been FAQ'd already, so yeah, this one's fine. And another thing, just removal of arms, legs, whatever extra stuff outside of the hull no longer dictates LOS. So, for instance, an ATST would include it because it's part of that cylinder, but I think for like crabs, for instance, it wouldn't include it. So that kind of makes sense. And yeah, not mad at this. Again, it's just another clarification. It's a bit finicky this exists, but I understand why they've written this in. Applying suppression tokens, I think this is for bring them to heal, so you can't gain suppression if the unit died before the attack. That comes afterwards, so you can't get the points for that. So I assume this came up once or something in a tournament where you needed to get that suppression. Little clarification. Reverse moves and strafe moves, these have just been clarified, so they are standard moves. So if you have tactical or anything like that, I think you would get an aim, or if you had agile, I think you would get a dodge. Again, not completely sure on this one. I think it also means you can get a pivot if you have repositioning your ground vehicle. But yeah, I'm not completely sure on this one. But again, there has just been clarification that these are at least standard moves, so that hopefully clears things up a little bit. Any ambiguity there is hopefully removed. And then some more specific ones that came in at the end. So Xian, one step ahead, self-destruct and tow cable. For Xian, it's basically good old deflect, and if you don't suffer wounds, you don't get suppression. So yeah, not it's fine, and yeah, I think it makes Ahsoka fairly good, but not broken. So I think this is fine, and I think Ahsoka's a strong unit. I don't think she'd be like meta breaking or anything necessarily, but she's definitely a strong unit. So yeah, it'd be good to see this out on the field. One step ahead, you can basically boil this down to if the pips match, then you can perform a move with any unit. If the pips don't match, you can only perform the move with Lando, I think is the way I'm reading this. It is a little bit overcomplicated, but it sort of makes sense, I think. And it's fairly impactful. Like the fact you can move Bad Batch for free is not bad, and this would, I think, if you were to do a move, I think it would trigger like the dodge from the Sleep Cell Astro, for instance. So it does have some pretty nice uses, and there's that gambling aspect to Lando. But yeah, a free speed one move, it's not terrible. And in a world where those things are really useful, self-destruct has been changed from, baked into the card, as it were, to it does the same thing for everybody. So it's just X black dice for however much self-destruct you have, and you do a wound for every surge and crit, and you do a suppression for every hit. So it's not bad. But yeah, this is just another change to self-destruct work, how self-destruct works, and I think it mainly only hits like spiders and IG, for instance. So yeah, it's a change, but I don't think it's necessarily a nerf or a buff. And then finally, tow cables can give vehicles immobilized tokens, which makes the airspeeder quite interesting. And given that the tow cable weapon is free, it's not a bad way to run your airspeeders if you were running them. So yeah, it's again another thing that's been added that maybe makes just that tow cable weapon a little bit more valid, because the free pivot or whatever it was from the weapon before, probably not super valid. The really big changes were the changes to the units, and I think probably from the way you could, like the posts and the way I was talking about this, you could tell before I had a certain idea about what was going to go down, but this was just completely different to what I expected. And in some ways, the Adepticon stuff was completely unexpected, but in a good way. I'm going to go ahead and say this was completely unexpected, but not in such a good way. And some would also say it's a bad way. Some people have completely lost their heads and they need to calm down, but the rest of us are doing okay, I think. So the stuff we lost: Palp and IRG. They say it's a licensing thing. Does it matter? I don't know. Like, they can blame Lucasfilm if they want to. I'd rather they just told the truth. But if they choose not to tell the truth, it doesn't really matter. So completely up to them. I mean, at least my predictions can't be wrong if they just remove him from the game. So that's something. But yeah, it's a bit rough. For people who own these, including me, there was just some of the only Empire miniatures I had painted. So it is what it is. For what it's worth, I think it was a bit weird that Palt was on the battlefield anyway, so I think him being removed isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the IRG, I thought it was quite cool they existed, and they still had some fringe uses in Empire lists, but again, it's not a massive loss that they're gone. The other losses are to create space for other things. The custom, so basically the generic commanders for Empire, droids, and rebels have all gone. They will become the custom officers, so that's again just to create space for those things to come in. Again, hopefully these get replaced with something cooler, but yeah, don't have a huge issue with this. I think it's fine as long as it's creating space for new stuff. And then they killed Pathfinders. Bit baffled on this one. I apparently it's some licensing stuff. Maybe they're coming back as like a cool Rogue One thing. My personal brand of copium for this one is that they will come back, hopefully, as some kind of Rogue One themed battle force using Rebel troopers. But yeah, I think that's maybe a bit of a reach, but we'll see. It's an interesting one for Rebels now because almost all of their long range trooper options are pretty rubbish, unless you're taking a heavy weapon on a trooper squad. So yeah, I mean, you still got obviously the vehicles, providing the AT-RT, the land speeder, and things like that. So there's still long range options, but it is a bit weird that the Pathfinder's fully gone from the game. It does at least mean I don't have to buy another squad of sleeper cell because apparently you can just use Pathfinder as a sleeper cell or something. So every cloud has a silver lining and all that. But this was a big shock, and I'm a bit disappointed because I did really like the Pathfinders. Aggressive tactics is gone. This is pretty significant. It was being run on Commander Vader a bit in Empire lists, and then you saw it sometimes in droid lists, sometimes on Dooku or a Super Attack or something. So a bit sad that that's gone, but it's fine. I wasn't running it anyway, so I'm joking. I care about what other people think. Battle Meditation wasn't really being run. Comms relays a little bit rough. You'd sometimes take it on, Cad Bane or Din or something to prepare to hold on to those good independents, but yeah, it is what it is. Esteemed leader, maybe you'd see this on Grievous or Dooku sometimes if you really want that Guardian, but yeah, it's gone. And RIP Gonk. Man, that's pretty sad. I liked Gonk. I didn't tend to run him super much, but very often. But yeah, it's fine. Be what it do. RIP Gonk. The only points update. What the what? What? Oh, I don't understand. Like 60 to 70. What? Like I could understand. Don't get me wrong, Rangers are solid, and I think in the right hands, I think they can be pretty scary. But of all the units in the game that you decide that you're gonna make a points change on above Sleeper Cell, Aquas, ATRTs, I I'm really confused. And maybe there's a reason for this. Maybe there was some fringe case where range troopers are really good, but yeah, this is baffling. And yeah, Empire lowest win rate faction, take one of their better units, give them a good kicking. Why not? Maybe Empire's going to get some really crazy stuff in the next few updates, but at this point, honestly, man, I as a rebel main, I am the natural enemy of the Empire player. But in brighter news, there were some decent unit updates. Again, just to say, I've tried to capture as much of the stuff as I can in all of these. I will have missed some stuff, but try to get as much as I can. Iden basically was changed to be slightly more expensive, so I think she's 15 points more, but she gets the DLT all baked in, which I think you were mostly taking anyway, so that's fine. And yeah, she remains functionally the same. The nice bit is you no longer have to covert ops if you want to infiltrate. She does it naturally, so that's really good, especially with that sniper. Just giving you've got some really good options on that one because I think it is. It's a useful thing to have that infinite range shot on turn one, especially as someone who's tried to make Cassian work a couple of times. The only other change was two changes actually to her probe droid or whatever the hell it's called. It gets observe one, so it's just got a nice little upgrade there. And tax strike was slightly nerfed to Iden 2 troopers, so a little bit of a nerf there. And yeah, sure, like I'd have left it as it is. It was one of the main reasons to run Iden, but I think this is still a really strong command card, especially on that turn one or turn two. Callus got a bit of a glow up in my opinion. Gone from commander to operative, but he picks up some really nice bits. Obviously loses contingencies, but the free observe 2 is really nice. Bounty's pretty good. Charge is great, getting that action economy. Direct trooper unit, love that because Empire, similar to Rebels, can struggle a bit for order control sometimes. So I think Callus is like a supporting piece to, I don't know, a Vader or something. Could be a really nice thing to have. He's got that immune melee pierce and obviously that interrogate ability on him as well. So yeah, it's pretty decent. And with his bow rifle, obviously he's lost his tactical, which means you have reduced access to aims, which maybe lowers his damage output. But I think perhaps similar to Jin, anti-force user run, just for a couple of turns, he can slow down a force user. Immune melee pierce, and thanks to hold the line on his one pip, which is what we're calling surge in melee and surge defend and surge to hit in melee now. The rights have got that as well. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, so face me was slightly updated just with that update to be hold the line. Lost that agile, which is which is a bit rough, but yeah, it's fine, and I think again just makes him a pretty solid counter to a Force user for Eternal 2. And then his 3-pip had some minor updates. I think it's still functionally quite similar, but yeah, just and also nice that it no longer has to order him now. It can go on to more important units if that's what you want to do. So yeah, I think Callus arguably got a bit better, but obviously remains to be seen. And the Emperor operative slot isn't super competitive right now, so gives him a decent little niche in there. There were some other sort of miscellaneous changes to rather than outmaneuver, it now gives nimble, so possibly better on speeder bikes and stuff now rather than that outmaneuver. So yeah, giving speeder bikes, cover one, nimble, it's pretty decent and will make them maybe just survive that a little bit longer. Boba, who I'm just going to count as Empire unit for the sake of this, lost access to his flamethrower command card, which means also Rebel Boba has lost it as well. Vader's Might meant from moving the unit one range effectively to half range. Sure, it still achieves roughly the same thing. It's basically a force push. It literally is almost a force push now that maybe does a couple of wounds. And then Din's Flame Projector went from 8 points down to 5 points. I think maybe just to bring it in line with the other flamers. Maybe they're trying to make all flamethrowers cost that 5 points. I did think it was always a bit weird that Din's was more expensive for no obvious reason. Moving over to my home faction, the Rebels. Newcastle played with him in a game last night, so I have some early thoughts on him. He feels very, very similar in the way he plays. It's the balance with Cassian is knowing when to move from his sniper to his pistol, and still having that recover 3-pip, which stays exactly the same, gives you that nice turn to maybe move up. Again, same as Iden, he gets that baked in infiltrate, so you no longer have to throw away. Or you no longer have to switch from one to the other, as it were, in order to get that infiltrate. He holds on to Danger Sense, which was quite nice, actually. I think, having seen Jin's card, I wondered if he might lose it, but he held on to it, which is nice to see. Still got Marksman, still got Tactical. Sharpshooter 1 is a decent pickup. Maybe just with the way cover works now and with his sniper, does just make it easier. You're no longer purely digging for crits as you had to back in the previous version of the game. And Field Commander's decent if you don't want to have to run a commander unit. The only real change to his command card was to his 1-pip, so he no longer gets the standby, and but he still gets gunslinger and that aim. He basically he gets like relentless effectively. He can move, shoot, or move, shoot, or whatever. He gets a free attack action essentially, and that's pretty nice. It gives you a bit more reach than you used to have, because sometimes it was a bit awkward playing Cassian's 1-pip sometimes, because you'd sometimes play it in that transition term between moving from the sniper to the pistol after you'd recovered, and sometimes you didn't quite have the reach to be able to get there. You'd have to spend your aims in order to give it long shot, rather than spending them to improve your dice. So I think this is pretty nice, and the combination with K2 is still pretty decent. I don't think he's going to end up being sort of meta, because he has been dropped into an extremely competitive slot right now. But as a thematic piece, I think he's still really strong. And yeah, I think not that far off being actually pretty competitive. Jin, it's all changed with Jin. So she's dropped 15 points down to 75. I should probably put points costs on screen. Actually, you can't see them here. I'll add those. Actually, won't. You'll see these in the edit. But yeah, so I think Jin has fundamentally changed now and has a much clearer role, and I'm really happy with what they've done with Jin. Again, I used her in my game last night, and she was really solid. And I think independent move in combination with agile and disengage is really fun. And she's in a very competitive slot with the operatives, but it's not out of the question that she actually starts to drop in just because she is so cheap. Like, you can legitimately run her at under 80 points. Personally, I think you do want to fill her command slot, but I'd nearly always take situational awareness on Jin and then either improv or inspiring presence, because inspiring presence, as far as I can tell, works on operatives, and you get that nice courage 3 range 4 bubble. Infiltrate's always nice, and her pistol's decent. That 2 red and white should be doing 2 pierce 1, which in a pinch is no bad thing, especially with that independent move. You can really close that gap quite effectively. Her command cards have changed a bit. Functionally, her 1-pip is still the same as it should have been. It literally acts as like a standby, but except it actually works now, because she can free move and attack when the unit within range 2 moves. So it's good. It's a non-removable standby, and again, with a unit with agile and independent move, it's pretty nice for messing around and moving through units. Trust code both ways stays the same. still decent, and I ran it in a layer wicket list, so there was some really nice dodge and aim token shenanigans going on, so that's pretty decent. Should be noted, Jin's damage output still nothing to write home about at all. Like 4 Surging Black might give you 3 against, yeah, but you're not running it for the damage. And then her 3 pip, Jin, and a lot of time you're not going to want to give Jin an order, but getting Danger Sense, even 1 or 2, you know, you could stick this on a Luke, you could stick this on, you couldn't stick this on Bad Batch unless you gave her Underworld, but you could potentially stick this on Bad Batch if you wanted to. It's nice, and it's always a nice ability to have, and not being able to be suppressed or panicked for Rebels is always going to be a big deal, so potentially a really clutch late game play. Yeah, she's good, she's fun, give her a go. Don't expect to do loads of damage, but let her be that annoying piece. Her and Wicket actually function really similarly now. They're both, you can stack with dodges, not a huge amount of health, but they will just be really annoying, do a bit of plink damage, and yeah, will be surprisingly effective if used correctly, so definitely give her a go if you haven't. And Lando, all change here. No contingencies, obviously. Lost Covert Ops, lost his Sharpshooter 2, lost Flawed, kept his Uncanny Luck. So he didn't quite lose everything, but nearly everything. He does still have his command training and equipment slots. Can't see it on this picture, but he does. You know, you can be moving, you can be shooting. So you can't be shooting. You could be standbying, you could be aiming. It's not bad. And I think with vets, there's something there. I don't know if it's that strong, but I think it's interesting. Baked in allies of convenience is nice. That's often something you be taking on your rebel commander, and it leaves your command slot free for improvised orders. So best of both worlds. It's kind of like a 5-point discount on Lando if you're running the right kind of list. One step ahead we've already talked about. I think it's an interesting ability. Bunch of speed 1 moves, not too bad. And he's got steady. So yeah, it's all right. I think his pistol, it's basically Luke's blaster but without the pierce. It's okay. And again, for a bit of suppression and maybe, you know, knocking off 1 or 2 on a core unit, it's not the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I think Lando might find a spot. Given that the Rebel Commander slot is a bit all over the place, he is a different brand of supporting commander. So it'd be interesting to see whether or not he finds a home in some competitive lists. In terms of his command cards, they're a bit complicated. So he has 2 1-pips now. His Ace Up His Sleeve counts as a 2-pip when you're list building effectively, but is a 1-pip in game. So you could be running with 3 1-pips, which in and of itself is quite interesting. And a 1-pip that orders 2 units, not bad at all. So basically, Ace Up His Sleeve I'll talk about first. It acts like old contingencies. You can kind of see which card they're going to play, and then you can kind of opt to select this one instead of it. For his Corellian Spike, you can just select a unit, roll some attack die, and try and immobilize it. It's quite interesting, you know, locking a unit in place, and it gives him the divulge. So I think, again, if you're bringing Lando, you probably are running this. Idiot's Array is pretty confusing, but basically if a unit makes a ranged attack, if they have one of a blank, a surge, and a crit, during the reroll die step, so when you would be spending aims, you can basically convert a hit and a crit. Hit and a surge to both be crits. So this isn't bad if you're running like a rebel troopers with a Z6 was where my mind went first with this. You know, generating some crits from a unit that doesn't naturally surge is not bad. So again, I think he's just a solid supportive commander, and especially if he's getting incognito from his divulged 1-pip, not bad at all. So I think we'll wait to see how Lando plays out, but a nice niche that he's found himself for those rebel commanders. And I will say, on the whole, I think AMG's done a really good job with Cassian, Jin, and Lando. I think some really positive changes. This one hurt. Yeah. Why Luke was the best rebel commander. Why he was so good. Yeah, they took away the 2 command cards you really want to run on Commander Luke, unfortunately, which was You Serve Your Master Well and I'm a Jedi, and they've locked them to Jedi Knight Luke. I don't get why the 2-pip Full of Surprises hasn't been locked as well. Like, this feels like a very gameplay meta-based decision, as it were, rather than actually a decision they've made for thematic reasons, which I think is sort of what they're claiming. But yeah, either make them all or make none of them, please, just for my own sanity. This is rough, and most of my command cards stay the same. You Serve Your Master Well, change slightly, so if you do this on an enemy unit, it just gains 3 suppression, which bit underwhelming, really, isn't it? I don't think this kills Commander Luke necessarily, but this personally, I think Op Luke. Now, having just said that Commander Luke is better than Op Luke in a video 2 days ago, I think they now swap places again. So yeah, I think this is Op Luke back on top. Yeah, Op Luke stays the same with a slight nerf to Serve Your Master well, but yeah, it's fine. And I think he's still got that synergy, you know, with Sleep Cell, for instance, because if you do it on a friendly unit, it still gets the attack or the move. So not bad, but yeah, just a bit crushing. And man, the timing was rough. Yeah, it felt really bad. Couple of other miscellaneous rebel changes. Wicket lost his sharpshooter too. The Mandos, so Clan Ren or the Mando Resistance, have an option for shield in the gear slot for 10 points. That gives them 2 shielded. And Sabine's shield now gets recharge as well. So that's if it's unused during a turn, it can flip. So yeah, it's a decent little buff to that equipment for Sabine and gives her a bit more survivability. Again, hoping to see some points changes for those quite soon, so that the Rebel meta, the Rebel meta lists are going to become a bit stale. I think we may start to see a bit more triple sleeper cell knocking around, which yeah, I'm not sure anybody really wants to see, but they're really good, and until they get changed, it's understandable that people who want to win the game will be running the best units, so absolutely fine. The final one, just to finish off on a bit of a tangent, is the Clone Trooper Marksman got shown. I was nearly right. I did say it would be a core unit at least. I don't know if I said it would be speed 1. I guessed it would surge to hit, and I was wrong. But it gets prepared position of marksman, so they function very similarly to Shaw's, and they've got a range 3 gun with long shot. So yeah, it's all right. I think they have some nice natural synergy with arcs. I think it'd be nice if they can take some heavy weapons. We could see if they, they get a natural range 4 heavy weapon or something to fit in. I think they said the DX15 or something, the 2 red one with Pierce, would make it across. So hopefully we see this. But yeah, I expect these to be a bit more expensive maybe than basic clones, but looks like they offer something, although losing reliable one is maybe a little bit rough. So it might be that you run a blend of these rather than one over the other. But yeah, looks like they have a decent niche. But yeah, that's it all. All the changes I could see rattled through. Let me know if I've missed any in the comments below. I think overall, it's a bit of a rough one, isn't it? I think after the hype of Adepticon, I did say that just deliver on the promises and don't. Yeah. Anyway, I won't get too far into it, but I'm just a bit disappointed, and I think we don't desperately need some points changes because the meta's in a fairly decent spot. But I think there are some factions that have just been pretty sad for a while, and not the worst, definitely not the best. And I think there are some strange decisions here that I can understand why people are annoyed at. But the game isn't going to die. This will have a small to medium impact on the way the game is played. Yeah, it's just not the kind of announcement that you really wanted to hear after Adepticon. So be interesting to see what comes next, and we really hope some points changes come in to maybe give Empire especially a bit of love, because the only change they've had recently is on those range troopers and making them worse. I can understand it's pretty rough, but yeah, thank you very much for watching. While I'm here, obviously I never made like a fire subscriber video or anything like that. Couldn't really think of a logical one to talk about, but I do just want to say thank you to everybody for liking, subscribing, commenting, whatever. Really pleased with how the channel's going, and it's great to see everybody having a good discussion in the comments below. Yeah, and we're going to keep churning out the stuff we're doing, although based on my Commander Luke video, I'm a little bit reticent to make those now, because I'm assuming as soon as I release any kind of faction update, immediately AMG will drop an emergency points update, absolute nerfing every unit into the ground. So yeah, we'll see how we go, but thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.